Hello everyone, it's Martin Hanna here. I'm the CTO of Simble, and today I'd like to share a few experiences and battle scars, I guess, and shortcuts that you may be able to take advantage of on your journey with IoT. Firstly, starting with Simble, we're a company that bases our product on IoT technologies, and we turn data into insights and outcomes that help shape a sustainable world. The company itself, for those of you who don't know us, we're IoT-based technologies, Amazon platform, listed in 2018, and we're in Sydney, Melbourne, Vietnam, Dubai, London. We provide solutions for energy management, measure and verify, forms, and productivity. Now, today, I'd like to start off by drawing information from the federal government Smart Cities Plan, and where we believe that we are providing some contribution, and indeed all technology companies have a role to play in these areas. And the first one and most obvious one is livability and sustainability. As technology companies, IoT has a role to play in air quality, waste emissions, and rating systems. Being able to encourage homeowners and businessmen to adopt practices which meet with what we might call corporate social responsibility, but they promote practices that reduce their energy footprint, reduce their carbon emissions, and this is as much a technology issue as it is also a social issue, giving people the tools and the reason to change habits and practices. The Energy Performance Certificate of the UK is a good example of that. That's an initiative that requires anybody selling a property in the UK they have to get an Energy Performance Certificate, which then comes with a rating of their property, and the properties with a higher EPC rating get a better value at market when they're selling the property. So it is within a homeowner or a property owner's best interest to do anything they can to improve the energy performance characteristics of the property. And for example, technology companies like Simble have a role to play in that. For example, we've embedded the EPC rating form and the fields and information within the mobile app we provide to residents and small businesses in the UK, so that they can keep track of their EPC rating over a period of time, improving awareness and affecting decision making that will improve the livability of properties over time. The next area, or before I get into that, the other thing that Simble is involved with is the World Carbon Trading Exchange. That's based in Europe. We produce a product called Carbon View, which is used by the Carbon Trading Exchange as a base product that companies use to keep track of and measure their carbon footprint, and then collect the requisite information to use in their annual return and or to trade carbon credits with other organizations who are in a position to provide those companies with relief, which is of course an important step in moving forward to carbon neutral organizations globally. The smart tech aspect of the Smart 5-point plan is obviously to assist communities with IoT devices that can not only improve efficiencies but introduce new capability through innovation that can change the way businesses work. So there's a range of things from energy conservation, lighting, process automation, automation of public areas, that be bins and car parking and public facilities and the like. And the technology industry has a role to play in this. There are a very, very wide range of IoT devices that can be ingested and through the use of automation or data analytics, mapped to produce new or more effective outcomes. In Simble's case, there are a few examples that perhaps bear mentioning today. In the council space, we've been working with a number of councils: Richmond Council, Arlington, Cancer Council. Well, it's not really a council, is it? Non-for-profit, but anyway. Charterhouse School in Britain. Those projects have been primarily energy management, control of public lighting, and some early stage planning on EV charge stations and efficient and billing and or cost sharing. In the case of manufacturing, we've had a number of successes with organisations who are gaining cost savings from the use of their energy through more efficient use of power. And in these cases, especially in manufacturing sectors where there's a high energy use, this can put can save a lot, and those cost savings go back directly to the balance sheet. So these organisations, once they've made those cost savings, can then hire more people, they can increase their production, they can approach new markets. So it's an overall positive effect on the economy. We've also had some interesting use case and stories in relation to the residential, producing products that would be put into the hands of the residential space. Starting from the one I mentioned a few minutes ago, where the Simble products in the hands of the homeowner used not only to measure energy and as a budgeting and cost management device for energy, water, gas, but is also used as a device to control certain items in the business or the home. And another interesting project is one that we're about to embark on with Cambridge Architectural Research to measure the heat transfer coefficient of buildings, which will then be used by Simble's AI platform to provide information, recommendations, benchmarks, and comparisons across properties and property types. In banking, we've had some successes there too as well. Interestingly enough, the projects usually again start with energy management, and once the energy savings are identified, then they usually roll in some other technology, such as in the case of one UK bank, very large bank, we're rolling out 1,000 devices to 1,000 branches starting at the beginning of 2019. So what is interesting about all of this is that there are certain trends and rises in popularity of IoT technologies that bear mentioning. For example, throughout all the projects that we've undertaken in the last 12 months, we have seen a distinct rise in the use of connected technologies. That means the technology and the devices are connected to other devices, which then provide an outcome. So we're seeing multi-sensor deployments being more common now than a single sensor or two put on the end of put in a remote location to control one or two functions. The deployments are getting more sophisticated in their outcome, indicating that generally the world is becoming more aware of what IoT can do and is taking on more and more adventurous projects. It's interesting to chat to. I was chatting recently to the head of IoT for both KPMG and Deloitte, and at different times, of course. But they were both. I asked them both the same question in relation to what they have noticed in terms of projects getting approved that they've been involved with. Are those projects largely experimental in nature, or are they production projects where there is expected ROI? And it was the case that for both of them, and indeed this is also supported by research if you want to look online, that 2016-2017 organisations were involved more in projects that were discovering what IoT capabilities could do for their organisations and bringing on IoT capabilities into the organisation. Whereas really in 2018, the emphasis has shifted towards production IoT tech projects that are expected to have an outcome, indicating that I guess the world's moved on and business as large has become more comfortable with the use of IoT and is starting to use it for real-life projects where there is expected results and financial returns. So drilling down a little further inside that, we see these evolving expectations from people that are undertaking projects. And these are affected by a number of other factors that are happening alongside. So, for example, in the case of IoT technology itself, there is a huge range of devices today that even 12 months ago there wasn't quite as many, but today the variation has just exploded. The communications options that are now available, LoRa, Sigfox, Bluetooth low energy, and the low power devices, meaning that we can put more devices out at remote locations. This is just expanding the use cases exponentially. Then there's the ingestion, the rate at which data is being ingested. I know in our platform, for example, where we are predicting that we could reach 900 terabytes a day by 2020. That's a huge amount of data to be bringing in, categorizing, analyzing, and then putting it into some form that might be then used by other applications, automation, or data science. So it's the ingestion part of IoT has moved beyond the experimental stage. These are the production systems that need to function flawlessly. Data insights has moved on as well. The graphs, reports, and analysis that might have been suitable a year ago are no longer enough because there's so much information and there's so much expectation of the outcome that insights and exceptions and data mining themselves, the tools that are being used and the expectations of people that are using them are much greater than they've ever been before. The business intelligence, the triggers and notifications that is then used to trigger events and actions as a result of data has also moved up a couple of notches. And then there's the repurposing of data. The repurposing of information, the taking an event, a trigger, or a trend, and then turning it into some other new knowledge which would then be used for some kind of information or control. The repurposing of data so that for purpose of autonomous control of devices and or environments, and predictive insights. These are all new things that we were dreaming about perhaps a year ago, but they're becoming production issues today. So through all of those, evolving expectations, there's also an emergence of a need for new ways of thinking when it comes to the way in which we would interact with all this information that we're accumulating. And it is the case, certainly in the case of Simble, we're finding that we can no longer just rely upon, well, graphs and analytics are still very important and they won't go away, but our customers are looking for other ways in which to interact with the data which are more intelligent, if you like, overlaying an AI capability on top of the data to tell me what I need to know rather than expecting me to sift through information and find exceptions. This new breed of user interface, this new breed of facility is being used for monitoring assets and environment, decision making based on a number of complex events, and then taking that complex event and the outcome that was decided upon by a human being, and then somehow or other incorporating that in the platform so that from that point onwards the platform can make that decision by themselves. Self-trained to produce new knowledge, models that are machine learning models that have been training themselves to handle new outcomes. And then there's also the need for new forms of user interface for people to be able to interact with this information because there's quite a lot of it. We at Simble we are getting involved in producing different forms of user interface, not just for devices such as mobile phones and browser desktops, but also TV displays, digital displays, foyers, departments or production lines, just different displays for different purposes that are intended to show the person exactly what they need to know to be more effective at their job function. And those devices might also be used by people who don't have a keyboard, don't want a keyboard. So new forms of interface such as gesture control, speech and touch are technologies that we're going to have to find a way to use quickly, because if we don't, then the amount of information we're accumulating will be difficult to use and difficult to leverage. So in the case of Simble, our journey has been quite interesting, I think. We started off perhaps in 2007 as potentially could be described as an IoT platform with forms and workplace automation. And in 2018, we really had to evolve into an organization that was providing an IoT ecosystem, a system where a number of devices could work together as one for a number of outcomes and use cases. Our systems needed to be based on open systems so that we could leverage our partners, because we can't do it all. Nobody can. These organizations need to learn to partner and work together and do what they do best, and leave the other parts for other organizations that do well at that, leveraging best of breed, if you like. In 2018, we also were a company that was repurposing our platform for workplace automation and self-automation. But in 2019, we've just in one year, we seem to be moving into an era where we need to be delivering outcomes from very, very large data sets. So we need to become better at ingesting huge amounts of data and repurposing it quickly. Open platforms rather than open systems. So it's platforms that allow our customers and partners to interact with us, basically connect their systems to ours and provide information transfer of the right information in a timely manner. And and as an advancement on workplace automation or systems automation, we seem to be moving into this world where we're going to see more and more autonomous self-managed clusters of control. So a little controller sitting out there in a park which controls water sprinklers and a number of other devices, but can have a machine learning algorithm downloaded to it so that it can react to new circumstances that have been learnt over the last period of time. So you could say that our system started from a simplistic position where we had IoT devices that were in some way being ingested by an engine and then stored in a database, and then an API provided the data that was necessary for mobile phones and display and browser cloud-based applications to access. But it's needed to evolve, and this diagram is explaining what it's evolving into. The platform can no longer be just simple databases and ingestion and engines. There's a more complicated, more sophisticated platform evolving that has an ability to host multiple different sorts of applications and can manage multiple complex triggered events, invoke a machine learning model, and then take actions as a result of that. We are finding ourselves needing to utilize third-party products like the IoT box and operating system provided by Amazon Greengrass, so that we can basically have devices that sit out there at remote locations that can accept machine learning models to be downloaded into them, so that they can control multiple autonomous devices and react to events without necessarily having to poll back to the cloud through the communications network, because it may be that at the time they try to connect, the communications network isn't up, or the signal is poor. So we need to in order for us to have more robust solutions, we need to evolve in this direction, as would, I imagine, everybody here. So these high-level dashboards, multi-level AI-controlled, command-and-control dashboards also need to evolve, and they not only need to have new forms of user interface, but new ways of presenting information and IoT information, combining it with production information and potentially financial information from finance applications. So why I'm going through all this is because I'm encouraging you to think about the fact that the the simple ingestion of IoT data and bringing that back into your various platforms for a single one or two use cases is in itself easy to understand how to do it. But when you're trying to do multiple devices over a period of time, the speed at which you can do them and the technical capabilities required to link devices and hook them up into your platform and then keep it running in a reliable manner and then handle the volume of increased volume and scale of the data is difficult. And so my suggestion is that utilizing a platform that's already handled many of these challenges is a much easier way to go, and it will allow you to innovate fast enough to keep pace with your organization's requirements. Building it yourself, in other words, is too hard, too slow, and too risky, and it doesn't leverage the knowledge of your partners, and it doesn't leverage the knowledge of other organizations that might well be using the same platform. So if you're at this point embarking upon new IoT projects, and it's important that you are, I think the other clear message I need to reiterate is, and I'm sure everybody here realizes it, but it's really important that organizations start. Just as the KPMG guys and the Deloitte guys and the research companies have all highlighted the importance of organization developing IoT capability. It's a capability. It's not just a thing that you implement just like any other thing. It will take time for your organizations to become skilled at using IoT and skilled at selecting the right places to use IoT and then implementing it in an efficient and orderly manner. And if you haven't started any IoT projects, it's good to start with one that's simple and has a clear objective. That's why we find that the Simble Energy product is often used as a starting point for these IoT projects, because it does actually produce a positive return on investment, and it's pretty well mapped out and easy to understand. So it's an organization can get IoT exposure. It's simple to learn. It pays for itself, and more importantly, it opens the organization up to realize other ways it can use IoT and introduce experience that will help the organization recognize new places that IoT can benefit that organization. So, for example, Simble Energy for Councils is an example starting project where for measuring control, and we've got use cases, as I mentioned earlier, in the UK, where this is exactly what's happened. They start off with energy management, they get a small return, they get experience, they can benchmark and report on sustainability goals. So a simple 4-step plan for the corporate social responsibility policy might be to become energy efficient, start reporting on your energy utilization and footprint, and then start to demonstrate that sustainability to the community, and therefore influence that community to take those steps on their own. Once those steps have been taken and that first initial project is underway, there are then hundreds of other IoT devices that can be put into the field and linked to the Simble platform for all sorts of things, for monitoring roads, signage, lighting, optimizing the bin collection with schedules, toilets, barbecues, eco-friendly environments. There's just tons of Thinkstra devices. These are based on the Sigfox network, which some of you may be familiar with. And then there's a whole raft of other devices. Here's another example. Zapato, there's thousands of these that can then be put into the field and linked to the Simble platform to control other environments, measure other environments, collect additional data, and provide benefits in other use cases. Here we see another example of the application in the UK that started out for measurement and verification, and now the same application is being used by other parties to provide knowledge and experience or ideas to the homeowner, and that will help them save money introduce some new products, services, ideas, and generally promote energy management responsibilities. So that's just one of a number of things that the Simble Energy Management Platform can do. But the world is moving from just energy management into IoT ecosystems. And there are quite a lot of opportunities and use cases where your organizations can take advantage of IoT and build its own IoT ecosystem on a suitable platform. There's no need to do it on your own because there are plenty of us, not just Simble, but others who have done it before, and you can draw from that experience, hopefully, and plot your own course. So thank you for your time. I'm available at the stand if you want to catch me later and ask a few questions. And I do hope you get started and start to plot your own IoT journey. It really does hold a number of benefits and advantages that are very difficult to explain in a presentation. These are things that you'll really need to experience for yourself to fully appreciate.